Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders is joining us now on the Chuck and Bo Show. Governor, thanks for making time for us today. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Governor. It's an honor.
Absolutely. Good morning, and hope you guys are off to a great start of your week.
Well, you've done the work for us.
You've done a little show prep for us here this week, Governor.
Creating the conversation.
I'm just here to serve.
Thank you.
Just here to serve, here to help.
What is your thought process behind why this should continue to be an annual event, what we saw on Saturday?
Look, I think there are a lot of factors that go into play. I understand there's some challenges too, but War Memorial Stadium is a historic place in our state, and it's not just a place where we've had historic football games, but you've seen the likes of Billy Graham and President Harry Truman, Rolling Stones, George Strait come out to this iconic place, bring people from every corner of our state together. It's a much more accessible location to people in South Arkansas and Eastern Arkansas and even the capital city. And it's a tradition that I think growing up in Arkansas, growing up in a Razorback fan is a unique one, and it's special to our state and something I hope we don't lose. And based off of what I saw this weekend as well, I think that the rest of the state, in what we hear and, people we talk to, they're hungry to see a game in Little Rock continue, and a matchup between UA, ASU showed out to be, I think, one of the most energetic crowds we've had in a really long time. And I think it is a great way to celebrate football season and bring all of our state together, and just a really fun time of fellowship and football.
Is there the feeling this can be replicated year after year after year?
I think so. I think there's certainly a desire. One, I think people really want the Little Rock game. I know that there have been their fair share of challenges, but also if we're going to bring in another school from a different conference outside of the SEC, which we have always done and will continue to do, clearly less so moving forward, but still it's going to happen, whether it's Kent State or Alcorn State or Georgia Southern. There's always a school like that we bring into play. Why not let that be an Arkansas team, keep that money in our state, grow both teams' fan bases? I don't think that you can make the argument that there's not some recruiting that can take place by seeing the crowd come together and cheer on two Arkansas teams, and high school students that might not have the chance to go up to a Fayetteville game may have the chance to get to a Little Rock game in a way that they wouldn't otherwise, and see the Razorbacks take on another team. And I certainly think that the energy and the enthusiasm showed us that this is something that people want. I think it can easily be replicated in the future.
How do you make the money work? Because that's a big part of this. I'm sure in your conversations with particularly the U of A, that's come up.
Yeah, and I think there are a couple different parts of that. Look, we usually pay one of those other schools anywhere from $800,000 to north of $1 million. I think we can do it for less. The travel is also much smaller, so that cost is lower. If we sell out every single ticket like we did on Saturday, the energy that I saw on Saturday in Little Rock was infinitely better, and the stadium was infinitely more full than the game the week before on Saturday in Fayetteville. And so I don't know if you went to both games, but there was a noticeable difference in the number of empty seats. And I think if we keep that momentum up and don't lose it, then we can figure out a way to make the money side work out throughout some of the negotiation. And that's really what this is. Let's bring both teams to the table. Let's negotiate and see if we can get to a place that it makes sense. Nobody's looking to hurt either school and not make this something that's a win for everybody. But I also think it's a big win for the state.
Yeah, Governor, it seems like it was a great event. Whether you could replicate it in terms of people thinking, oh, this is the last time, they've got a lot of memories, they want to go have this one occasion, I guess remains to be seen. You certainly seem to think that can happen. What do you say to people probably like me that say, I don't see how this is good for the Razorbacks, and if their job is to win as much as possible, and this is an inconvenience in their season, you mentioned some challenges, What is your answer to that if that was to be said to you by somebody in the athletic department, for example?
I think it's good for people from around the state to have access to Razorback games. And not everybody can afford to take the weekend and go to Fayetteville. You're coming from Texarkana or El Dorado or Lake Village or West Memphis or Jonesboro. It's a lot harder to get to Fayetteville, but you may be able to get to Little Rock and you can get back home. You're not paying the cost of a hotel either to stay overnight. What I'd like to see also, I think doing this potentially, I don't want to be overly prescriptive, but traditionally the Thanksgiving game is really poorly attended in Fayetteville. And I think that doing this over Thanksgiving, where you have a lot of students from around the state that are home, helps us build out and make this game what we got to see on Saturday, and another way that we help replicate that level of attendance and enthusiasm. I mean, we've been playing, out of the last, I think, 78 football seasons of the Razorbacks, 76 of them have been played in War Memorial Stadium, and it's a tradition I just hope we don't lose without at least having a really serious discussion about how we make it work. And again, that makes it an upside for Fayetteville as well. I know some people are worried about what happens if they lose. I think the same argument could be made. What happens if they lose to Missouri State? What happens when they lose to UAB? Those are all things nobody wants to happen, but you're going to play a game 10 times, 9 times they're going to win. Once they might lose, but that's going to happen to one of those other outside of conference teams at some point. I'd rather keep the money, the excitement, and building the fan base here in Arkansas.
It seems like there might be two issues here. I mean, playing Arkansas State and then playing in Little Rock. I mean, I guess some would ask, why would you have to play Arkansas State in Little Rock at War Memorial Stadium every year? Why couldn't it be in Fayetteville?
I think the question is, why wouldn't it be in Little Rock? You have, again, it's a part of accessibility and that opportunity to bring some tourism and excitement to our largest city, to our capital city, that frankly, the success of our capital city impacts all of our state, and it matters for Fayetteville, it matters for Jonesboro, it matters for Mena, for Little Rock to do well. And so it is a catalyst for many other things. And so I think that is a part of the conversation not to be ignored or left off of the table. But it also gives a neutral site to 2 Arkansas universities to come together, but still have a huge fan base in that location. It allows, again, I think people from every corner of our state to come together to celebrate our state's 2 biggest universities, our 2 most competitive football programs, and do so in a way that benefits our entire state, including our capital city.
Governor, the schedule's kind of laid out between now and 2030. They're in contracts for non-conference games. If this were to actually come to fruition, is it something that would happen before or after that, in your opinion?
I mean, I'm not the negotiator here. I'm just the encourager to see it happen. I'd love for us to be able to do it as soon as possible, sooner rather than later. I don't want to lose the momentum that we have behind what we were able to experience this past week. And so I'd love for us to be able to try to figure out a way to make it work as soon as possible in the next upcoming season.
And then before we get you out of here, is there anything you can do about 11 a.m. kickoffs? Bart, who is our producer here and was talking to you before you came on, he would really, really love to see 11 a.m. games be outlawed by the state of Arkansas so that the rest of the country would know when they're doing TV scheduling that we don't play at 11 a.m.
If I figure out that level of power, I certainly would be happy to invoke it. I fully agree with your producer. The 11 a.m. game is the least fun. I also have kids that play football, and it's usually on Saturday morning, and I really like to be able to watch the Razorbacks play in the afternoon. And so selfishly, I would love to see later games. And so I'm happy to help make the case for later games, but I don't know that I have much influence over that process.
Well, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, we really do appreciate you making time for us
Thank you,
today to
Governor.
give your
Thank you.
perspective and point of view.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on. And ultimately, I think that everybody comes down on the same side as we want what's best for Arkansas and look for a way for all of Arkansas to come out on top. And so that's really what we're trying to push, and hopefully we can find a way to make it work.
Well, thanks for coming on with us again, and have a great Tuesday.
You bet. Thanks, y'all.
You bet. Thank you. Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders on the Chuck and Bo Show. We'll take a break and come back and react to that.